I am going to start this share with a little bit of a paradox. Sometimes you have to break your word in order to remain in integrity with it. I'm going to say that again. Sometimes you have to break your word in order to remain in integrity with it as you evolve. And we're going to dissect that a little bit more. If you're new to my spaces, my name is Xavier Dagba. I'm a shadow work facilitator and transformational life coach. And today I would love to explore with you the old saying, keep your word. I find it to be a truly beautiful intention. There's a beautiful intention behind it. And the intention is, ideally, people around you want to know that your word means something. It is one of the highest forms of integrity to give your word and to mean it, to give your word and to back it with real intent, to give your word and to honor it as best you can. It's also one of the highest forms of respect for people that you're giving your word to. It's one of the ways to demonstrate that there is a real pillar, a real foundation behind the words that you're giving, the words that you're saying, and that it is something that can be truly trusted. There are situations where your word can also become your prison, a prison to your soul. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. I'm inviting you to think of yourself as an evolving being. And sometimes you are making choices from lower levels of self-realizations. And I like to think of it as making decisions we are constantly making decisions from a place where we are a little bit naive. And we are constantly naive because you just don't know the fullness of who you are. You may have an inkling. You may think you know, but you haven't embodied it fully. Unless you wouldn't even be visible, in my opinion. If you embrace the fullness of who you are, you would go back to the realm of soul. So that's the thought that I like to think. So we are constantly making agreements, making decisions from a place of naivete. We are constantly making agreements from a place of not fully knowing who we truly are. And as you evolve, there needs to be some sort of leeway for adjustment, some sort of leeway for making new agreements. And sometimes the new agreements that you're invited to make in every now moment may challenge things that you used to believe just a month ago, 2 months ago. With new awareness comes a recalibration of knowingness. What you used to know to be true is no longer valid based on your new level of self-realization. So what that means is, and this is where it's truly challenging, in order to come back in integrity with your word after an outburst of expansion, there needs to be a process of decommitting. Sometimes, in order to keep your word, you need to be able to decommit consciously. And decommitting consciously has nothing to do with running. It has nothing to do with trying to escape. It has nothing to do with running from responsibilities that you once agreed to. Decommitting is actually a sacred act. When you realize that things that you had previously committed to, they no longer reflect who you are in this moment. They have started to be soul and spirit depleting within you. When you realize that it's no longer in your highest purpose, and most likely you staying involved in these agreements and commitments is no longer serving people that are, part of that agreement. Choosing to renegotiate, choosing to recalibrate, choosing to openly communicate, hey, you know what? I am no longer feeling in alignment here. How can we find a solution for that? How can we find another way? How can we adjust the initial commitment? And maybe sometimes the outcome is to remove yourself completely. Decommitting is a very brave act when you're willing to do that consciously. When you are not taking the easy route of running, when you are willing to own and to embrace the responsibilities and consequences that come with shifting and expanding. There's a sacred duty of now communicating that you have changed, communicating that your priorities have changed, and doing so openly. That is actually something that allows you to remain in integrity with your word. Remember, it is you recalibrating with your word because something that you have agreed to, maybe 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, maybe a month ago, it may be a job, it may be a task, it may be a relationship. You may get to a point where you have shifted dramatically and things need a recalibration. So sometimes actually breaking your word is needed so that you may get back in integrity with your word. You are an evolving being, consciously changing, constantly changing, and making room for that in your life and choosing to face that at times, choosing to face the situation where you realize that an agreement that I had made, yes, I made this agreement, and now I'm realizing it's no longer serving me. You taking responsibility for that, it's another level of expansion. And it's a skill that we get to master in our journey of awakening, in our journey of expanding. This is basically the essence of what I had to communicate here, so that you may feel that your word is not a prison, but it's something that is actually holding you to higher standards. It is not a prison. It is something that is supposed to hold you to higher standards. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And if this resonated with you, please share it with people who might need it. I send you a whole bunch of love, and I'll see you in a future video.